Hello everyone and welcome to this last part of the course. And we've already loaded the textures in Sketchfab. We've loaded the base color, the normal map, the ambient occlusion map, and emission map, which is the map of the elements that would generate light. Now what we have left is adapt this work using Sketchfab's filters and the settings we can tweak on this platform so we can get the most out of the scene. So let's start by going to the Lighting tab. Here we have the environment, which we can change. We can choose another type of environment. There we have preset environments, and for example, we can choose whichever we want since the brightness will be quite low. So now we lower the brightness using this slider here. Before doing that, we can also orientate, as you can see, the light. We can set it wherever you like, here for example, and let's take the brightness down, like this. We have another lights panel that we have to enable first, which is this one here. Here we have these three types of light. We can choose if we want them to be directional lights, point lights, or spotlights. We're going to activate this lights panel, and as you can see, I already have the lighting set. So I'm going to explain how I did this. We have a spotlight, which are the typical theater lights, which as you can see, we can move however we like. I placed it here, and I set this greenish color for it. And through these parameters, we can modify the angle of the lights, its fall off, the softness, the shadows, etc. This here I recommend you not to vary it too much because it controls the shadows cast on the model. Two important tips are to lower the brightness or raise it at our discretion. I set a second light, this one here, which is also a spotlight, and it's a backlight. And of course, we can choose the color we like the most and manipulate the properties, like the fall off, the angle or softness of the light, and as always, the brightness of the light. And finally, we have a point light here, which I placed inside the lantern. This light, which as you see is here, we can place it inside and tweaking the only parameter here, the fall off, which is the range of the light. So if, for example, we set it here, we can see it illuminates much more. And there it is. And we can also change the brightness, which is the intensity, as we see fit. This would be enough to light the scene, though we can do more things like, for example, navigate to the Post-Processing Filters tab, and here we'll give more power to the image. So let's get into this tab, and we can activate things like ambient occlusion, which we previously loaded into the image through a texture map here. But still, we can enhance this ambient occlusion by activating this parameter here. So let's turn it on and notice how it changes and improves those shadows of objects being closer. And here we can tweak parameters like intensity or the bias. Here we have the grain effect. Let's exaggerate it quite a lot. And what we can do is make this grain effect animated. So let's try it out and see how it starts moving. We can lower the intensity down here so it's not that obvious. Here we can control the depth of field of our point of view. It's very important to set it up correctly, and we can see by default it's quite exaggerated, but we can tweak the parameters, both foreground and background blur, and lower them in search for the combination we see fit. This is important for lights because setting this effect up, we get this halo here, which is quite interesting. Alright, let's leave it like this. Then we have the sharpness effect, which makes the image sharper and in focus. See? We can also tweak it and leave it about 10. We have chromatic aberration here, which is used especially in camera, lens, and blur effects. We can turn it on, but I would leave it either at a very low value or off. There's also a quite interesting vignette effect here. We can enhance this effect quite a lot to obtain this vignette gradient. And there's the bloom effect, which is the one that will enhance our lights. We switch it on and we get more of a halo in the lights. Using these parameters, we can also increase quite a lot these effects with intensity or radius, for example. Bloom is very important, alright? Here we have options like tone mapping and color balance. We can activate these two and we can choose the way the parameters are applied. Like, for example, we can set it in Filmic and we get a darker scene, but we can tweak things like exposure or brightness and the contrast so it doesn't look so dark. I'm going to add a bit more saturation. And as I was saying, this is all about tweaking parameters. We can also set it to Reinhardt, which will change the way the tones are mapped, but we still manage the parameters to adapt our image. I'm going to leave it like this, and we're going to switch to the lighting tab and turn the brightness up a bit so it isn't that dark. And the individual lights too, we can turn their brightness up so we have more light. All of these is a matter of how we want the final image to look. And finally, we have the color balance, which we can modify. We can modify the shadows, the mid-tone, and highlights, like in Photoshop. See, we get a bluer tone, a greener tone. Let's leave it like this. Start with the highlights. And the shadows. Notice if we change the shadows, the tone of the image changes quite a lot. But we can achieve very specific and characteristic atmospheres. We could spend here some time trying out different combinations, see? Let's reset this. And let's leave it like that. We can turn down the bloom level, maybe. And finally, we can switch to Lighting tab and try out other environments, okay? Remember to lower the brightness, very important, so it doesn't result in a scene with too much light. And finally, we go to the Scene tab here in Environment under Background. We can work with the ambience that we see in the background. We can raise or lower the brightness to the background or set an image for it, though you can't upload a custom background unless you're a Sketchfab Pro member, which is a paid platform. We can see the pricing plans here. But in this case, we're working with the free version and it has these default backgrounds, so it's okay. We also have the option to set a background color, like for example this one. Whenever we feel our image is ready, we can click on Save View and save a photo of the scene we've created that we can use as a thumbnail. Now let's click Save Settings, Exit. And now we can edit the properties, set a name, a description, maybe a couple of categories, and add some tags so we can make our work go viral easier. And whenever it's ready, we hit Publish, and our scene would be on the website ready for it to be viewed by other users. Alright, besides the work we just finished, I have other examples here. Here's one without the character on the boat, but it basically is the same, only the textures were painted differently. You see we painted some lines on the boat in ZBrush, but all in all it's the same model. The monster has some more texture on the body, and the little balls are white. But the setup of the scene is the same. The atmosphere is different though. And we can also make some day effects. Work on the image to be a day scene. Set an image as a background, put some blur on it, and do the same with it but in a day scene. Alright? Okay, so we're finished. I hope you liked the course. You can start from easier elements. You can practice, for example, with an easy-to-model lightsaber, and then use what we learned in this course to place light-emitting materials. Okay? So that's it. Hope you liked it, and see you in the next course. See you soon. Bye-bye.